Hello, my name's Liz Rowlinson. I'm a property journalist with Place in the Sun, and I'm here today to talk about how to get a D7 visa to move to Portugal. Portugal is hugely popular post-Brexit, with all nationalities really. The climate, the lifestyle, the beautiful natural landscape, everything, and they're actually making it not too difficult to actually move there after Brexit, which we're going to talk about. So I'm here with Paula Meireles. Paula, hello.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Liz, Richard and Helen. Good morning to all. I'm Paula Meireles, an independent lawyer based in the Algarve that will be here during this section to help clarifying any legal matters. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Richard, you are a happy, successful mover to Portugal. Could you just tell people briefly where you are and how long you've been there?
Yes, I'm in just outside a place called Algeciras, which is in the Western Algarve on the Atlantic coast. And we moved here in September 21.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. And Alan Forbes Wake, good morning. I believe you're also on the Algarve.
I am. We moved to a small village called Algos, which is just outside Gear, and we moved in December 2021. Great.
So similar timing. Okay. So we're just trying to sort of demystify the process of getting this visa, which is sort of aimed at people who want to retire to Portugal, rather than sort of properly work. And we're going to have Paula and you to help explain that within the webinar and go through some steps. So let's start with, and then we'll talk about some alternatives as well briefly. But Richard, can you tell us how you began to start the process? Did you have a question of which visa? How did you find out information and start it off?
Well, once we decided that we wanted to move to Portugal, we actually just logged on to a couple of your webinars, various ones on the D7 visa, the practicalities of moving, the NHR tax regime, that kind of thing, and that just led us to then do a little bit more research, and we joined a couple of Facebook groups as well that are particularly aimed at people moving to Portugal, and took it from there really.
Yes, there are some useful Facebook groups and expat groups on the Algarve of information. You're right.
Yes, I probably wouldn't, don't go taking legal advice from Dave off Facebook, but they certainly, help with people's experiences is probably as far as I'd take it.
And the application is made here in the UK, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we started it off by getting in touch with a company called VFS, who are involved in getting the biometric side of things sorted in Manchester, which is where we're allocated. So we got an appointment with them. They took all our biometric details, and then we were directed to the Consulate in Manchester to kind of proceed with the rest of the application.
And what was your understanding of what you needed at the beginning?
There's a whole list of things. I'm just going to glance at my list to my right here. There's a whole list of things that we needed to take with us. So there was obviously passports. There was 3 of us that came across, proof of accommodation in Portugal for the next 12 months. We needed 3 months bank statements, UK bank statements, and proof that we'd opened a Portuguese bank statement too. We then needed a police check, which was through the ACRO organisation in the UK rather than DBS, which was our first mistake. We brought along our DBS checks from work, and that was the wrong one. So it is the ACRO that you needed. We needed health insurance to run in Portugal as well. Just trying to think what else we needed. I think that was pretty much it. The proof of income. So I needed something from, because I'm retired, needed something for my pension company to say what my regular drawdown was each month. And we had to prove that we got, at the time, it was €660 each as minimum income per month. And a 12 months worth of that in savings each as well in a bank account, which is kind of the backstop then.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of documentation, isn't it?
It is, but we just made sure that we went through it, little tick box list, made sure we got everything, photocopied anything that they needed, so that effectively, there was not too much messing around at the consulate. When you wanted a copy of something, we'd already got a photocopy in our little pile of papers each, which it made it much less stress for us, and I think they were quite grateful as well. Really, it made it much more efficient for them.
Yeah, my understanding of all these visa applications at Portuguese and Spanish consulates, if you have everything in order and make it easy for them, it makes the whole process a lot simpler. Which I think, Paula, I think you might agree with from what your contacts have told you. I mean, the minimum income requirement, Paula, do you think that is a problem for some people to sort of prove or put them off?
No, I don't think so. People say that actually Portugal is one of those countries that require less money to request the residency. Richard just said that each one of them had to prove the minimum national wage. There is another way. If instead of each one become an applicant, if they all do all together, for the first adult will be the minimal national wage that in this moment is around 750. The second adult, half of that, and each child only 30%. So it can be reduced. Normally what I recommend to people, adults, I say, a minimal amount of 14,000 euros in a bank account, I think helps to justify means of self-sustaining.
Yeah, because the minimum wage, the threshold goes up slightly each year, doesn't it, to take account of inflation, etc.
And in these 2 years, actually, the growth has been slightly higher than it used to be before. So that's the reason that it went from 690 to 750.
Okay.
Which is fair, is fair.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. It is less than some other countries, this income requirement. So thank you. Alan, is your experience, does it echo? I know that each person's experience is often a bit different. Does your experience echo that of Richard's? And did you have any problem with any of the aspects?
Slight difference with ourselves was we didn't have to go through VFS. We went straight to the Portuguese consulate in Manchester, and
Right.
we had a great consular officer, and he guided us through from start to finish, and he was the one that we met when we had to do our meeting, and he was absolutely great, and we didn't have any issues whatsoever. So we're very happy with the process.
So tell me about the timings. You approached the consulate. Well, you first of all, you got your documents all together. Is that how the process works?
Yeah, we downloaded the application form and pulled all the documents together around September time, and then we submitted the application to the consulate in Manchester. We got an appointment on the 7th of December 21. It was a joint application, we all went. The process was very straightforward, as Richard has already alluded to. As long as you've got your documents in order with duplicates, not an issue whatsoever. Okay.
And at the appointment, do they just literally check your documents? It's not like an interview, is it?
No, it was a very friendly discussion. Went through all the documents. We got taken into a private room, so all your confidentiality was maintained. and they took copies of all the documents that they wanted to load up for the first stage approvals that they had to submit to CEF, etc. But apart from that, it was very straightforward, very friendly, no issues whatsoever.
Brilliant. And basically, and they said, what did they say would be the next stage of the process?
The next stage of the process, we'd get a confirmation email to say that our stage 1 had been approved. We were allowed to keep our passports because we were actually traveling to Portugal the day after.
Right.
We were actually moving the day after. So they left us with our passports. And once we got that email to say it'd been approved, we were instructed to send them DHL back to Manchester. It was stamped and it was returned within the week by DHL with the stage 1 visa in the passport.
Two interesting questions there. Gosh, you must have been very confident that you were going to be successful if you were moving the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you've got to be confident. If you follow the rules, and the Portuguese consulate officer said, shouldn't be an issue, you've got all the documentation, you qualify on ABC, we'd retired, we'd proved all our income, savings, bank account, etc. He gave us the confidence to say, shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, and you alluded to stage 1. Am I right in thinking that the first stage is you get a temporary D7 visa?
You get a temporary D7, which lasts, for us, it was 6 months. So we had a date stamped that it would run out June 2022. And then once it's approved, you get an automatic, at that stage 1, once it's approved, you get a automatic appointment for your stage 2 meeting, which ours was north of Lisbon, so a fair journey. But that's the process, so you've got to fit in with the requirements.
Okay,
and that was May, so it was very quick on how it moved along.
Sure. Great, thanks. And Richard, you did you say, because sometimes they do tend to retain people's passports, is my understanding.
Yes, so when we went to the consulate in Manchester, they kept our passports so they could then process the visa and stamp your passport with a visa. But they only kept it for about 2 weeks. And we knew we were much the same as Alan. We got our flights booked really for middle of August, which was in middle of July. So we were a little bit anxious, but yeah, they stamped them and then phoned us to say that they were ready and either they could DHL them. But we actually went up to Manchester to collect them ourselves, just to make sure we got them in our hands to come back again. And then that gave us 3 months rather than the 6 months that Alan got for us. But we also, in our passports, we were given the appointments, the CEF appointments for the stage 2 visa. Yeah,
the CEF is the Portuguese immigration agency, isn't it? For people who don't know, the border.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So they're kind of the passport control, visa control of all of this.
Sure, and then even when you get your stage 2, you then have to. Do you have to then get a sort of residency card? How does it work? Is it done?
Yes. So the first thing to remember with a stage 1 visa is, for us anyway, in that 3-month period, we could only leave and return to Portugal once in that period. So it restricts your movements around Europe. That includes moving just out of Portugal into Europe as well as the UK. But yeah, then once you go for your meeting in your appointment with CEF, they will then, within, I think ours took about 2 or 3 weeks, issue with a little credit card with your photograph on that is basically proof that you've got residency. And our residency with them was 2 years from the date of that, which is December. So we started the process in July and we had our 2-year residency card by middle of December.
Okay, and then your perception of what you're going to need to do to renew when the time has come is?
Apparently, it's very, very straightforward. They will message us to say that it's due for renewal. If they want to see us, they'll let us know. Otherwise, it will just be automatically renewed.
Great. So you can relax for a bit.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you. Paula, you don't have to own a property, do you, to have this visa? You can also, as I think you mentioned already, you can produce a long-term rental contract. Is that right?
Correct. In the case of Alan and Richard, they had their own properties before they submitted their processes. However, it is also possible to just get a rental agreement, a 1-year contract in principle that shows that the person is really serious and has the intention to move and to have some stability.
Great. Yeah, and we will talk about the alternatives type of visas in a sec, but that's with this visa, yeah, you can just rent a place and then but in actual fact, if you have to apply in the UK, I suppose it makes sense to apply before you actually go. And is that what most of your applicants do in your experience, sort of apply when they're in the UK, then make the move?
Yes, that's my advice. Everybody should apply from the UK. That's the correct way of doing the process. And to get everything that Richard and Alan had mentioned, to get all those documents in place before they move forward. If somebody comes to my office and asks me, Paula, I think that I would be ready in 2 years. I say, don't worry, don't do anything now. Don't get your fiscal number, because that will imply a payment, a month, annual payment. So don't do nothing of that before you are ready. When you're certain that you want to come, it's the moment to start the process. Then yes, come to Portugal, get your fiscal number, get your bank account in place, look out for a place to rent, because some people, they say, oh, then I will look for, looking in internet, it's not the same than having the contact with the physical reality of the property. So I always advise people to see what they are renting out. We analyze the contracts, we see if everything is it's okay. If so, we advise people to move forward.
You referenced there that you also need to have a fiscal number and a bank account in Portugal to make this application.
Yes, that's one of the requirements.
Okay, great. Both of Richard and Alan, you've referenced private healthcare. Alan, can you explain how you went about trying to sort that out?
Yeah, well, stage one's pretty straightforward. You can get, we use Stacia insurance for private medical, whilst it's basically a holiday insurance cover, but for longer periods.
Right.
But that only lasts for so many days when you're permanently abroad. So before we went for our stage 2, we took out private health cover, which is a requirement of stage 2, because the simple holiday insurance is not applicable. So we took out the private health with a local insurance broker. Not an issue, pretty straightforward, fairly reasonable as well. Once we got our stage 2, we were entitled to local health cover. So we registered with the SSN, which is the Social Security Office. We got a number, went to the local doctor, registered with them. But at the same time, if you're over 66 or the retirement age, whatever that may be, you're quite entitled to apply for an S1, which is medical insurance covered by the UK government. So we've both got that now. You take it to the local Social Security Office, register it, and you get your medical covered by the UK then.
Brilliant. So the policy you took out, the private policy in stage 2, was that for a year?
That's for a year, but it's ongoing. It's just come up for renewal in the next few weeks. I think it's up for renewal because the first policy, 90 days abroad, and you've got to extend it in our experience.
Well, I hear the Portuguese healthcare system is very good indeed. So no doubt you'll be in good hands.
Very straightforward, very easy to find a local doctor. As long as you're registered with the SSN, you can walk into a local doctor within your area where you live. I was in Algosh. It was very straightforward, great English they spoke, and we were registered. So we've got a local doctor as well.
Brilliant, thanks. Richard, what about you? I think you're a little bit younger. How does your health insurance policy? Did you do the same? Did you take it out for a year? Would you be able to give us a rough idea of what the cost of it might be?
Yeah, yes, we did. We took out a year policy and we renewed it back in December. It cost us about €350 each. So again, we did much the same as Alan, found a local broker, and they went out and got us some quotes for various insurance companies. And it was very straightforward. And again, reiterate what Alan said about registering with your local doctors. It's very, very simple, very straightforward once you've got your stage 2. And we've even had text for our COVID jabs, our booster jabs. So I think we've had 2 while we've been here now. So once you're in the system, you're properly in the system. It's not like, we're different because we're D7 visa holders. You are properly part of the NHS system over here.
And that's €350 for a year?
For a year for each of them. Yeah. It wasn't, it surprised us. I mean, there are different grades, gold, silver, bronze policies. And I think the gold was about €800. So we kind of backed off from that one a little bit. But not that expensive, really. Probably a little bit cheaper than the UK.
Yeah, I think definitely a bit more than a bit. But so and you'll be able to go for the S1 when you're UK state pension age.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So what for you? What was the most what was the most tricky aspect of the process? It doesn't sound like you had a problematic time, but.
No, I think I don't think there was anything particularly problematic. There were logistical problems like the CEF appointments. My wife had hers in Albufeira, and I had mine in Lisbon.
Oh.
Yeah, fortunately different days, but it was the chap at the consulate did apologise. This is the way it happens. We just ask for appointments, and that's what you get. So there's that kind of thing. But otherwise, it is really, really straightforward. Even the language barrier, I feel foolish because I can't speak much Portuguese at all. But everybody is, Paula's a great example, so helpful, helping you to try and speak Portuguese, but also bailing you out when it turns out you're just a duffer at these sort of things. Yeah, so honestly, no real scary issues through the whole process for us.
Great, thank you. And is your plan to renew and then after 5 years become a proper full, citizen or resident?
We're in 2 minds about the citizenship, because that's giving up your passport, isn't it? But certainly, we're here for the long term now. Yes, we love it here. It's a wonderful place. Country's amazing.
Brilliant. And Alan, what other, in terms of now you've got your visa, does that allow you to move freely around the Schengen area without any issue?
Yes, the benefit of having your visa, your D7 visa, is when you come back into Portugal, you can use the easier passport controls.
Oh,
sometimes, yeah. Just depends.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving around makes it a lot easier. We don't have any issues. We've not come across any issues yet. But as Richard said, the only logistic problem we had with our visa was our meeting was north of Lisbon, and there was a train strike on, so we had to drive it. But that was the total sum of our stress throughout this process. It's simple.
I didn't realise there were train strikes in Portugal as well.
Yeah, not very often, but there is the odd one, and it was on the day we had to go up to Lisbon.
But otherwise, life in Portugal is pretty, you know, happy and straightforward for you.
Oh, without a doubt. We would never go back. We're here for the long haul, like Richard. Everything is perfect. The people are fantastic. They're very helpful. Great. Weather's great as well. Not an issue. No issues whatsoever.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. Paula, we should reference the fact that the D7 visa is not the only option for people who want to go and live in Portugal, have more than 90 days in Portugal after Brexit. There's a new digital nomad visa and there's a golden visa, isn't there?
Yes, truth. The golden visa is still there, more restrictive than it used to be in the past. Now, in this moment, big cities as Lisbon and Porto, they are preferably out of the golden visa program, but the Algarve also. But there is a secret, which is not a secret. You can still apply for golden visa if you buy in touristic resorts. Yeah. Do the same amount of investment of 500,000 as it was on the past and still have access to these areas. However, the idea of the government to change the legislation in relation to the golden visa was to populate some more remote areas. So the idea is to help Portugal populating those areas and to rehabilitate the old properties. So if you are in a more remote area and you would want to rehabilitate or buy something that was refurbished and has more than 30 years, you would be allowed to reinvest, to invest only the amount of 280,000. However, if the property doesn't have the 30 years and still in the remote area, you can have to invest 340,000. All the rest of the possibilities of the golden visa, they're still there. However, now, more recently, we had the approved legislation that for visas that received the nomad digital people. This has been very popular, is being very popular. The requirements are the same as the D7 with two exceptions. One is the amount of money that you need to prove that you have to self-sustain. Ah. Yes, which is equivalent not to 1 minimum wage, but to 4 minimum wages. So right. It will bring us to the amount of, in this moment, of 2,820 euros per month. You have to show that you have a work contract, or you have to show that you have that income coming in. Then, differently than we required for the normal D7 passive income, we want people to show that they have a property. Here, the big difference is you need to have a registered tax address. That is what we, when we represent our clients as the tax representative, is exactly what we do. We undertake the responsibility of receiving the tax correspondence of our clients, and any correspondence that receive, we have the legal obligation to give knowledge to them. So this is the reason why they want a registered tax address, because a nomad person, in principle, they want to visit as much as possible in a country. They might be 3 months in the Algarve, 1 month in the Silver Coast, 2 months in Porto. So the idea is to give people freedom. So I think is one of the reasons why they also demand bigger income, because you will not restrict yourself to a certain area.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, and I mean the golden visa, to reiterate, is you get the visa with the purchase for the amounts that you said of a property, without a mortgage, and it can be is it a quicker process to apply for that? You don't apply to a consulate, do you? Do you apply to SEF?
Yes, we apply directly here in Portugal. Liz, what I will have to say is very disappointing. One of my clients that I submitted 2 years ago, I received 2 days ago the document to pay to start for the process. So I submitted 2 years ago. In the case of these clients in particular, they have been going out and in of the country without no problems, but I think it's a little bit frustrating for people to have to wait 2 years to receive the documents. Before, I could count with 3 to 6 months, but really this time I was amazed. I thought that probably something was wrong on the process. Of course, I didn't want the clients to get nervous. But no, everything is okay. They just had a very big backlog.
Okay, so and we should also say that with the D7 visa, you are actually allowed to remote work on that visa, aren't you?
Yes, you are. As long as you, when you submit the visa, the request to the consulate, you also do a declaration of intention of working in Portugal.
Right, that you are going to be remote working, but your income is received
outside. For UK people, that the income would come from the UK. I have Americans that the income from America, Canadians from Canada, so they can work remotely, and they applied for the D7 and they were granted successfully.
Great, thank you. And just on the subject of cost, Richard, and what does the actual cost of the visa itself, and then there's some sort of translation and admin costs as well that came with it?
Yeah, it wasn't a great deal. I mean, if I include the acro check, the police acro check over in the UK, I think it came to less than €300 each. Which is nothing when you're spending the rest of your life here, really. Sure.
And then obviously the healthcare. It seems that it's not. Yeah, I've been hearing comparative costs of getting a Spanish visa, and it's generally a sort of €1,000 or so with all the little extra costs. So that's not your experience at all, really, with this version.
Not at all. No. Very slick and cost effective. Absolutely.
Brilliant.
I would agree.
Yes.
I would agree. It's very cost effective and straightforward.
What just on I mean, you've got your visa sorted, Alan. I mean, what was there other aspects of relocating to Portugal that were much more of a headache?
Yes. We brought a UK registered car across with us, and we found out when we got here that it had to be registered from new a minimum of 6 months. Ours was just over 5 months. So to actually matriculate that into a Portuguese registered car, it was going to be very expensive. So what we did was take the UK registered car back, sell it, and we bought an electric car because the house we're in, we've got solar panels, virtually free electric, so we can charge the car here. So there's no issues that. But it was this 6 month rule for a non-Portuguese registered car that we nearly fell foul of. And of course, you need your driving licenses changing from UK to Portuguese. That was straightforward. You just need to get the right documents from the UK, fill the form in online with IMT, go for your appointment. I think it was €20 or €30. I forget what it was.
30, yeah.
30. Yeah. And it's there. We got ours within 10 days, 2 weeks, straightforward, no issues, as long as you've got the documents.
It's
I can't
funny
say
that
enough. Documents, and make sure if you've got any bank documents that you get from the bank for your application, get them stamped by the bank and signed. It speeds things up because they may not accept it if you need to submit documents.
Do you mean your British bank?
No, the Portuguese bank.
Oh,
At stage 2, as long as everything's stamped. The other issue was we had to go to the local junta, local council, to get a form to say we live in the area. That was slightly difficult because they need 2 residents, Portuguese citizens, to sign to say you actually live in the area. But we managed that. That was straightforward. Once we got it signed by the local mayor, that was it, no problems.
great. It's funny that the car issue is often the most headache that people tell me when they move abroad, whether it's taking the car over, registering it. I mean, in Spain, I don't think they've even sorted out the status of British driving licenses yet, but that's not been an issue in Portugal, it seems.
No, if you're pre-Brexit, you've got another year to get your license changed. But if you're a new D7 applicant, you've got to change it within the year of getting your stage 2.
Okay.
No problems though. IMT, straightforward.
Great. Thank you. So, I mean, Paula, you can help advise people on any of these sort of legal issues, can't you? Because I mean, it's not just visas that you offer advice on. It's the buying a property, everything. Do you want to just give people an idea?
Yes, mainly what I do is exactly help my foreign clients on their investments in Portugal, buying their properties, creating their businesses. We do the tax representation of our clients, but I always say, and Richard is one of the most recent ones, that I was his tax representative and I released you. Correct, Richard?
Yes.
Because I don't see any point of people paying for a fiscal representation that they don't need. So when people come the first time to the office, I explain everything, how it functions, and I tell them, the minute you complete the stage 2 of your residency, bye-bye, Paula, I don't need your tax representation. So it pays then, you don't need. And that is just a complimentary service that we have here, because what I really do is being a lawyer, not a tax representative. That was just something that we created to help our clients since Brexit. Now, when we come to visas, this is something, visas, the driving license, any other registration at the local doctors, which neither Alan or Richard requested from our office, but we also do that for the clients. We do their registration at the local doctors as part of the package. I want to highlight something here, which I think is very important. You don't need a lawyer to get a visa to come to Portugal. I make it very clear to the people. I say, if somebody tells you you need a lawyer, you don't. What we do is prepare a small email with information of what people need, so that you have everything when you go to the consulate, and you don't need to pay anybody to organize your visas. Something different is the process of the golden visa. That, yes, that will require a different preparation of the process, and really for that we charge. But now helping people with their D7s, D2s, student visas, we help them, but we don't charge for that, because you don't need. These are simple things that you can do yourself, as Alan and Richard did, the registration of their driving license. So if it's something that they can do, why should I charge for that? We just help doing if the client asks, but majority of the people that I have noticed the new ones, the ones that are coming with the D7, they are much more proactive than the others that were here before Brexit. Those would come to the office, oh, do my driving license, exchange my driving license. Oh, could you please register this with a local doctor? But not the ones that come with the D7. I think they are much more proactive.
I think they've gone, once they've gone through that process, it's yeah, there's a they've kind of got their head around the system, perhaps. But
and something that I would like to say has Alan and Richard explained about their experiences with the appointments. Don't argue, please just get an appointment. Doesn't matter if they send you to Lisbon, to Porto, to Coimbra, just accept, because getting those appointments in Portugal has been impossible. We have one of our members of staff in the phone every day to SEF to try to get appointments, and we, for days and weeks, calling every day, we don't get an appointment. So when we get, is always party here in the office.
great, and we should flag up that you can, there's a consulate in the UK in London as well as Manchester, and is there one in Edinburgh, Paula?
No, I think Edinburgh is ruled by Manchester one.
I think that must be a Spanish one that I'm thinking of. Okay, and one quick thing we need to mention before we close up is that if one of you has got an EU passport, if you're got, you know, Irish or Italian, whatever, that would help you. It's a slightly different process. You apply on the back of the EU person's passport, don't you, or application?
Yes, but we have to make sure, because I had here 1 or 2 cases of people that had Irish passports, but they were living in the UK, that we had to wait so that they could fulfill with the requirements of Ireland to go through the UE process, which is much simpler, of course.
Okay, but people could come and you know, come and talk to you for advice on that if there's any sort of slightly different scenarios with people's passports and nationality. Well, look, thank you very much. I think we've run through, it's become clear that the D7 visa is perhaps not as complicated as I initially thought from your experiences anyway. So thank you, Richard and Alan, for sharing your view, your experience in getting those visas. And Paula, you're available for anyone to come and ask on advice on that. You're going to be doing some seminars at A Place in the Sun exhibitions, aren't you, regularly? So they can come and listen to more sessions about those, or come and talk to you in person.
Yes, of course. People just need to contact our office, and I'm always here and very grateful for the opportunity. Thank you very much for having me, and to all my clients, thank you for keeping me here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Richard, Alan.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hope that was helpful.